Today we're going to be talking about my number one secret to keep your feet warm every time, always in the backcountry. This is totally proven. Even if you've got a bag that is not keeping you warm, your feet will stay warm, and that's all that really matters, right? Not really, but it will make sure that your feet stay warm, even if you're testing the limits of your bag. So if you're someone who has had cold feet before, make sure you stay tuned to this video because we're gonna dive in and give you my number one tip to always have warm feet in the backcountry. Now, if you're new to this channel, we're Outdoor Vitals. My name is Tayson, I'm the founder here, and this channel is all about getting you outdoors more comfortably and more confidently so that you can go and make memories out there. If that's interesting to you, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell notification to this channel, and let's dive right into this video. By this point in the video, you're probably itching to know what I'm about to share, but before I give you the secret, before I give you that special something that you need to know to keep your feet warm, I want to talk about the problem here and why you're getting cold feet in the first place. So the number one thing that I experience is poor circulation. Being 6'2", a little bit above that, my feet and my hands just don't get great circulation, and that can create cold feet. Another thing is sometimes I'll pitch my tent and maybe my feet are a little bit above my head. Again, something that can create a cold feet scenario. Maybe you're going to bed with wet socks. That definitely takes a minute to get those dried out and warm. Sometimes it's not worth it. Sometimes just taking off your wet socks can be helpful, but wet socks is definitely a contributor. This is not something you hope to experience, but it can happen. Sometimes you're sleeping on a little bit of a slope, and throughout the night you slide into the bottom of your tent. Your foot box is pushed up against the tent, and you wake up with a wet foot box. Now, it's probably not gonna fail or anything like that, but it can create some dampness, and that can also lead to cold feet. There's a bunch of reasons you can get cold feet, so how do we fix that? So a quick story on what actually inspired me to share this and to actually develop this too, which is a little teaser here. It was last year, I was up in Alaska with my brother. We're doing some sporting activities, and we got quite a ways from camp, and we were so far north that the nights were only about 4 hours long, and we were about 2.5 to 3 hours of a hike back to camp when it was starting to get dark. And we looked at each other and said, you know what? It's not been getting that cold out here. The nights aren't that long. Let's just go ahead and sleep on the side of this hill tonight, and then we don't have to hike back to camp and then get back over here in the morning. It was maybe not the wisest decision I've ever made, but nonetheless, it seemed easy, right? A couple hours of darkness and we were back at it. Well, on our way to get to this hillside, I got into a little bit of water and my feet got wet. Not a big deal, right? No, it was a massive deal because that night we go up on this hillside, we try to put on every layer of clothing we have. I may have even put my feet inside my backpack at one point. All I know is I froze. My body was warm, everything was okay, but my feet were so cold because they got damp and had nothing else to put on them or to help out with that scenario. And so I actually ended up getting frostbite again in a different foot. So now I've had frostbite in both feet, kind of a different story. Anyways, I lost feeling in my toes for about a month, and I came back from that trip and I turned to our designer Brigham and I said, hey, we gotta do something about this. It's finally time we take action on this. So what action did we take? Well, introducing our LoftTech hybrid down booties. This, or any type of down booty, I guess you could say, is the secret to always having warm feet in the backcountry. Now this piece is a little bit different, which we'll talk about the differences here in a second, but when I switched to sleeping with a puffy or down booty, it did something to me mentally that I can't quite describe. It was amazing. I went from always wondering if I was gonna have cold feet to just knowing I was gonna have warm feet while I slept, and mentally, it didn't really matter. Like even if my face got cold or my hands got cold or my elbow got cold, it didn't affect me as much mentally or just my quality of sleep as much as knowing that my feet could be warm. That was a massive game changer for me when I started to use these, and that's a big reason why we decided to develop them. Some people, poor circulation. Sometimes you want to go to sleep with wet socks and have them dry out in the night, and different things like that to keep your feet warm in the morning. There's all sorts of reasons to have these. So let's dive into what this particular piece is and maybe what makes it a little bit different. So linking back to that Alaska trip, what did we want to develop? Well, I had personally had down booties before. They worked well, I liked them. However, in that scenario, I definitely could have used something with a lot better moisture protection. And even last week, a few weeks back, we were in a scenario where being able to dry things out or deal with moisture at a very, very high level would have been extremely important. And so that's why when we were developing this product, we decided to go with Loft-Tech hybrid insulation. For those of you that don't know what that is a down blended with a loose fill synthetic that basically looks like down, acts like down, has stability in it as far as maintaining its fill evenly throughout the baffles, but you can completely soak this and it will not fail. It will hardly even lose any amount of loft if it was completely soaked, and then it's gonna dry that much quicker. So why would it be important to have Loft-Tech hybrid instead of just a typical down booty, something with that extra moisture resistance? What if we go back to that original scenario where you slide into the bottom of your tent and your footbox gets moist, gets wet, and starts to lose its insulative properties? Well, these will not fail you. What if you're getting into your tent at night and your socks are a little bit damp? What if they're soaking wet and you have to go through that debate whether to take them off or leave them on so they can be dry in the morning? Well, having something like this is the answer to that. If these were pure down, you would have to think much harder whether you would want to put a damp sock in this, because it may actually ruin the loft or compromise some of the loft in this piece. Instead though, you could put a moist sock in here, sleep, it would keep your feet warm, and then they'd be dry in the morning and you wouldn't have to worry about compromising the integrity of this piece. Or if I'm sitting on a hillside in Alaska where my feet are exposed and it's crazy moist, there's fog rolling in, there's just moisture everywhere. I mean, we're wearing our rain gear essentially just because of the fog. I could have slid these on. These things are only 3.5 ounces. They could have been sitting in the bottom of my pack. They're this big. I would have not even noticed they were in there almost. I could have slid these on and not had a worry in the world that they were going to lose loft over time or just that my feet were going to be cold. It would have saved me from frostbite. And honestly, in that moment, I would have paid hundreds of dollars to have a pair of these. If someone literally had these on the side of that hill that night, I probably would have given them $500 on the spot just for those booties because I was that cold. I woke up at one point and just started pacing in circles trying to warm up my feet. And I'm pretty sure I walked for about 45 minutes, just in circles, just trying to warm up my feet. And it was painful, to say the least. And these would have been worth about $500 to me at that point in time. Maybe more, I don't know. That's me saying it when my feet are warm right now. I don't know what I would have said in the moment. Anyways, there's a lot of really good uses for these, and so I just wanted to bring that to your attention. These really are the #1 way to always have confidence that your feet will stay warm. They have that moisture resistance, but really you can see the amount of loft in here. Slide your feet in here and they're just toasty warm. It does something to you mentally. It's totally worth it. So if you're interested in these just launched on our website over at OutdoorVitals.com. Again, there's 3 different sizes you can check out. This is roughly the size of them in the stuff sack. You can compress those down, obviously. And you're looking at about a 3.5 ounce weight, depending on which size you get. So go check out the details over on OutdoorVitals.com. Make sure you follow this tip if you've ever experienced cold feet, or if you're like me, anytime that I'm pushing the limits in my bag and I don't want to jump to a different temperature range, these also come in clutch in those type of scenarios. We did film a video a little while back talking about different ways to keep your feet warm. There's some good pro tips in there, so we'll go ahead and link that video up here. You can go check that out for some additional thoughts on how to keep your feet warm. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys on the next video.